All right. Hello. Hi. Hello, everyone. Hello, Thorbjorn. How's it
Hello,
going? We are live
doing well,
now.
and you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, we're live
Good.
now. I'm so happy that you accepted to be here today and spend time together. I'm sure people will ask many questions on the comments. I don't know how many people are already watching, but I think it's 4 people already.
Mhm.
So, first of all, I want to know how did you start with ZBrush and sculpting and 3D in general? If you already studied in art field or you're coming from a different, field. As you know, many of us, I am also, coming from architecture background and yeah, just tell us about how you started because it's very interesting for all of us.
Yeah, so I guess basically, I guess I was into miniatures
Mm-hmm.
in general.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, I think I started when I was like 10 or something. My brother, he was into Warhammer,
Mm-hmm.
and he got me started into collecting that stuff. And I
Right.
was kind of in and out of that hobby for many years. But then, as I got older, I got more into just painting miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say maybe 7 years ago, I started sculpting, but more traditionally,
Mm-hmm.
like in green stuff and like in beast putty, which is like a polymer clay.
Yeah.
And I grew increasingly more frustrated with that medium just because like when you bake the clay, you'll end up like sometimes it will crack or it will screw up. And I think, okay, I was just gonna try and do digital sculpting, and that was maybe like 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I've been doing like stuff professionally for like 5 years now. So
Oh,
I,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So
Great.
it's been quite a journey, I think, but it's been really
Mm-hmm.
nice.
That's great. So, did you say you didn't study like anything related in the university, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I mean, I went to university. This
Mm-hmm.
actually I started working professionally while I was doing my master's, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an unrelated field. That was in biotechnology, so it has
Okay.
really nothing to do with sculpting. It was just, I guess, my hobby kind of became like a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I graduated from university, I realized that I could probably live off of just doing this stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how it evolved.
That's great. Do you think studying actually in a university, having academical knowledge is really important to start with this job, or you think you can do it by yourself? Because I get this question from, beginners a lot, like
I
people
th-
who want to start actually.
mhm. I think like in education and arts, I mean, I didn't have any. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that it's not necessarily like could be beneficial,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that it's not necessary. I think it has much more to do with your own willpower to try and pursue and become a professional, which
Mm-hmm.
just requires a lot of time and investment and research within the subject. And it can seem a little daunting when you start out, especially like with digital sculpting, because there's like
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's kind of daunting when you get into ZBrush for the first time. It can seem a
Yeah.
little bit scary with all the buttons, but
Yeah.
it's um it's definitely something you can learn on your own.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I do think there seems to be a lot of things you could learn at like a formal education that would probably help you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when it comes to like physical sculptures, it seems like most educations are
Mm-hmm.
more geared towards video games and movies. So I don't think that necessary for like physical sculpture or like things that are
Okay.
going to be produced physically.
Like, have you ever been interested in actually going into, gaming industry or like, VFX, or you were like already very decisive to start with, Warhammer and miniatures and do only sculpting?
I think that for me, I was kind of pretty sure of myself that I just wanted to work with something that could be
Mm-hmm.
produced physically. But I have done a few projects for video games,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just not out yet. So I guess we're gonna see in the future, like what that
Okay.
is. I can't really reveal that because of like NDAs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But so I have done some video game stuff, but not it's not that extensive.
So
Yeah,
it's not really that interesting to you. You really like sculpting, like, sculpting physical products.
yeah. I think sometimes the issue with me with sculpting for video games and movies is very heavily focused on just sculpting something in T pose. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of the enjoyment I get out of sculpting is telling a story,
Mm-hmm.
which would be posing the model or creating a composition.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when you just basically sculpt something in T pose, it's a very design oriented process.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much about how you design like the clothes and like the armor or the swords or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that oriented about the storytelling aspect that I like.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same for me actually.
Yeah.
Because I think when you're starting in T pose, it doesn't, the character doesn't have a soul, and I already want to see it when I'm sculpting. It's why I always start in the pose that like it's supposed to be, with the expression, because I really don't like the idea of sculpting a expressionless face. It
No.
just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it kind of seems a little strange, right? It's
Yeah.
just it's like a little bit of the soul is kind of missing when you just have that kind of process.
Yeah. And like you have been freelancing for some years, right? Now you're working, but you were freelancing. How did you
Yeah.
find it, like in this sense of that? How could you manage your, free time with the time that you have to work, but you have to, make a balance between these two?
I think that's a very good question. I think that when you're a freelancer, one of the difficulties is managing time and just not working all the time. And I was
Mm,
working freelance for roughly 4 years, and I did enjoy it. I think there's a lot of good things with freelance. It's a good like avenue to learn a lot about the process with a very low stakes, I guess.
mm-hmm,
So you basically don't have to worry too much about different like projects because it's usually like a very small contained project, and then you're on to working with the
mm-hmm,
next company or something like that. But I really like. I would say I probably prefer like working full time at a specific company. And right now I work at Games Workshop,
mm-hmm.
but yeah,
That's so cool.
which is a really good job.
Yeah. Might be monsters saying, Yo, Thorbjorn, looking good. And Simone waves, and
Yeah,
also he also waves too.
we'll
Thank
wave
you
back
guys.
to them.
Thank you for watching and writing comments. If you have questions, please feel free to write either on Instagram or on YouTube. We're live on both. So if you have questions from me or from specifically today is for Torbjorn, because we have the honor to have him today. And if you really have questions, feel free to write it. I'm gonna ask him some questions again, but at the end we're gonna read the comments and respond the questions. Leo Bolos also says hi to you, and
Bye.
yeah, we
Yeah.
have some people watching on Instagram, but no comments yet. So one of the other questions that I have is like, what are the approach for you as a digital sculptor when you said that you like, storytelling, like from the beginning you do it, or like how do you process it? Like, do you process it from the beginning that I want this to, look like this at the end of the project, or you just play with it until you come up with the story?
Well, I think that's a nice question. I think usually I have a kind of a weird approach. I think for my personal projects, it's
Mm-hmm.
different than when it's like a commission or like a commercial thing.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a commercial project, you'll have like a brief, and it's a very
Yeah,
specific thing, like
that's right.
what you have to do. But I'll just talk specifically about my own free work in regards to that. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically I'm just trying to make a nice artwork usually, and I will
Mm-hmm.
try and have like maybe a theme in mind. Like maybe it'll be like a positive thing or like a negative thing or like something that's dark or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will try and develop a specific composition.
Mm-hmm.
So I will try and work from it could be a particular type of actually maybe I could share my screen, I guess, right?
Yeah, I can switch between your camera and your screen.
Okay. Just give me a second here.
Okay. Also, might be monsters asking any pictures of your first sculpt. This is also very interesting. I don't have
My
any
first
picture,
sculpt.
but one day I will post it from the first sculpt to the latest sculpt, because it's interesting for those who also they want to start but they don't feel confident with their first work, and they're like, no, I will never become this good. And it's good to show how you actually become this good for those
Yeah,
who want to start but
s-
they don't feel like confident. Yeah.
I put in the chat like my first sculpt.
Okay. So this is Thorbjorn's first sculpt. Wow, did you also paint it?
And it was painted by Kaha,
Oh, I
Polish
love
painter.
her. Yeah, yeah, I love
Yeah,
her.
he's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean, but the thing is, it's not like wasn't like a. It was a
Mm-hmm.
pretty decent sculpt.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, it took like 3 months or something. It took forever, and that's working like hundreds of hours on something that
Mm-hmm.
should be. You could now I could do like in an evening. I feel like
This is
so.
really beautiful to be your first sculpt, but this is actually your first sculpt, or this is your first
This is the
commission?
first digital sculpt. I did some stuff in
Wow.
traditional, but I don't have pictures of it.
Wow, that's amazing for the first sculpt. Like really, like even for the for the last one, like it already looks so perfect. But we only have one angle, but also from this, one angle, it really looks good. And like, did you have an illustration to follow, or this was your own idea, or it was your client's
This
idea,
was
or
my
your own
this was
idea?
my own idea. It was kind of a little bit out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started learning digital sculpting, ZBrush basically, and this
Mm-hmm.
was just like the first idea that came to mind. Like I want to do
Mm-hmm.
like a forest lady, half
Mm-hmm.
tree, like something like that.
This is
And then I
beautiful.
started kind of developing the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Jacob, you know Jacob as well from
Yeah, yeah, I
Nordic
know him.
Miniatures,
Yeah.
he saw it and he was like, "Hey, let's try and release this thing." And then he helped me along and gave me a lot of feedback. And he was very patient. And
Yeah,
we
he's
kind of
great at
came
doing
up with
it, really. Being
yeah.
patient, producing things. Like I have this experience sculpting Adrift for him, and it was absolutely an amazing experience.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
I don't. Can you see my the thing I'm sharing here?
Yes. One second. Yeah. Yeah, here we are.
Okay. Can they see it as well now?
Yeah, I see. This is your latest sculpt, right?
Yes,
Or
it's something I sculpted like
mm-hmm.
end of last year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, to explain the idea about how I come up with ideas, usually I
Mm-hmm.
will start with like a composition.
Mm-hmm.
So I will work like with a like let's see here, like a triangular composition here.
Mm-hmm.
So I will make a pose that's basically more or less like a triangular thing,
Okay.
like this. I'm kind of working from the principles of like Frank Frazetta, if you
Mm-hmm.
know of him.
Yeah, yeah,
He had
sure.
he kind of worked from this kind of principle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll work with some sort of composition like this, and
Mm-hmm.
then I will kind of start putting in like parallel lines that could be uh, like, so we have the line here of the spear, so we have a line here from the arm that's somewhat
Mm-hmm.
parallel to that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have like the shoulder angles like this, the hair is kind of angled like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of trying to angle things similarly to kind of create order.
Yeah.
Things can very quickly become messy, basically,
You're
and
right.
yeah, then you just have lines going everywhere. And then I might position things like at a 90-degree angle to other lines,
Mm-hmm.
or like a 45-degree angle, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of order it in that way. See here.
So you're like putting an imaginary triangle in your work,
Yeah.
and you follow the the lines based on the triangle, or you like,
Yes.
because I didn't
Yeah.
understand how you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically. So basically, let's say I have a
Mm-hmm.
pose. Actually, I will have an example of it here. Just give me 1 second here.
Okay. So I guess the legs are parallel to the other line,
Yeah.
right?
See here.
Mm-hmm.
So if I just find out, this is a previous like iteration of it, if you can see now.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So basically, I start with like a pose that's really cool. That is kind of
Mm-hmm.
triangular. So
Mm-hmm.
this pose is kind of the same triangle,
Mm-hmm.
but then I might like the spear could be a sword instead. It's not really important to me what the design elements are. That could be anything. It could be a
Mm-hmm.
sword, could be an axe. I just
Right.
see it more as a vehicle to create a specific kind of composition.
Mm-hmm.
And then I might have like the hair is kind of flowing in like in a specific angle that's kind of nice, like and they kind of collide here or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I will have different elements like that, but I don't really worry too much about what the specific thing I'm sculpting am. I just
Mm-hmm.
more see it like, okay, if I have a character like this, I could have like a spear that's going like that. That's going to be a nice compositional element. I could have columns going like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea kind of starts to um, take place or make like come up. It's not usually like I have a like, clear idea in the beginning, like I'm going to make like Artemis. It's
Okay.
more like I just come up with, oh, that could be Artemis, if it makes sense.
So you start with the composition first, and then
Yeah.
you create the story, like based on what it looks like, you give it a character, right? That is the I
Yeah.
think the the most fun part of it actually,
Yeah.
because you're like playing and then at the end you're like, being more creative, because when from the beginning you tell yourself I'm gonna do this, and then
Mhm.
it's like you put yourself in a box that you are not allowed to make it look like something else, because you have to approach this goal. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's less creative, but this way, like you're open, you're free to all the ideas that you have, and you might come with the new ideas, and it's more interesting, I guess.
I think so. I think a lot of one issues, a lot of people they get very locked down in
Mm-hmm.
specifics. So it's like, oh, I want to have an axe on this guy,
Right.
and then they make like a nice pose or something, but the axe just doesn't fit in, and
Mm-hmm.
then now they have to change the whole thing instead of just changing the axe. Like, just give that axe up, like kill your
Mm-hmm.
darlings, and then move on to the next. Think more of like in terms of like a compositional element that would
Mm-hmm.
work in that specific case.
Mm-hmm. And humble bragger, might be monster says. Actually, we have a comment on Instagram as well. We have a few comments. Thank you guys. Thank you. Okay. Triangles in triangles, creating rhythm, reducing the size of the triangle when you look up in the compositions, so the face is the point of all the triangles. Is it like how you're doing it? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, some things. Some things to keep in mind is that the lines usually create a like a line of sight and such.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of could kind of phrase it like that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And the place where a lot of the lines kind of point toward is where a lot of the focus is gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I could probably have changed it a little bit because I guess a lot of the focus is kind of around here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's good enough that it's gonna like work out still. I don't think it's so rigid that oh this line
Mm-hmm.
is like 1 centimeter off, then it's not gonna work. I don't
Right.
I don't think that it's that specific oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
And also one thing that's always cool about sculpting humans is that it kind of sounds strange, but like the legs and the
Mm-hmm.
arms are always gonna be kind of pointing toward the head when you think about it. Almost
Mm-hmm.
always, like
Okay.
especially like in a triangular composition. So it's kind of easy to create the focal point around the head, which is usually where you want the focal point to be, I think.
Mm-hmm. Like, could you show us your portfolio and talk a little bit about your favorite ones and your challenges working like on some specific projects, if you prefer to talk about it, because we are curious
Yeah,
to. It's always better to actually, to look at the artwork, hearing what the artist think about it, because when we look
yeah,
at it, we are the artist, because we are creating things that kind of. We lost your stream, by the way. We
yeah.
are.
I'm just changing it to
Okay. All
my
right.
portfolio here.
Yeah, I was
Can you see
saying
it?
that. um Now, yes.
Okay, so I guess
Yeah.
I've done quite a few things.
Mm-hmm.
This is not everything. I've removed a lot of like the old
Mm-hmm.
things just because I don't feel like it's representative of my current skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess one thing I really enjoy to sculpt is like female anatomy and like
Mm-hmm.
elegant things,
Mm-hmm.
and that has been like one of my focal points after I basically started doing more personal projects.
Mhm.
And so I really like this one I did of it's basically Anna de Armas from Blade Runner. And
Mhm.
I've been really trying to focus a lot on trying to make things in a different way than we would usually see them. So like trying to sculpt on tiers and render them in specific ways to kind of try and convey a certain kind of story or
Mhm.
feeling or emotion. So I've been trying to play around with that.
Mhm.
And
This is my favorite. I really love this one, by the way.
yeah, I like this one as well. It's just
Mhm.
um sometimes we try and add a lot of things to our work. Like, oh,
Mhm.
they will have like a cape, or they will have like a bag, or they will have like a sword, and they will have like a lot of different things. But
Mhm.
sometimes you can kind of make it as minimalistic as possible and still have a pretty good impact emotionally. Just
Exactly.
making it to the bare bones, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of like about this. I guess there's not really anything. It's just like a sad lady, you know.
Mm.
And
Exactly. That's what I also love about sculpting, human
mhm,
anatomy and human body, because I feel like it's already expressive enough. I don't have to give him a sword to show that this is a killer. I can show it
yeah,
with the body, with the expressions, and I think it's really
like a
amazing to
gesture and
do
all.
it like that.
Mhm. No,
Yeah.
I get you. I think it's that's true. But yeah, I really like. I guess I've become more like of a bust sculptor, like in
Mhm.
my personal time,
Mhm.
just because I really like to just zoom in and focus on the most essential parts,
Mhm.
which is usually like the expression of the face, because I
Yep.
think we as humans resonate very well with other people's expressions, right?
Mhm.
We can read the emotions, and like I think in this case, this is like a Princess Mononoke that I sculpted some time ago.
Uh-huh.
I could probably have put more emotion into it, but it's more like kind of conveying the feel of the when you see the movie. I saw the movie the other day,
Mhm.
and I just like trying to experiment with things that haven't been done so much before, or at least not that I'm aware of, like having two heads on a sculpt or like a bust. That's
Mhm.
kind of like a little bit unconventional, I would say.
So you prefer to
Uh, I,
have only one head?
I think that's more normal, right? But there's some people that have done like multiple things. I think you did one as well with like a guy
Yeah.
and a girl that hug each other.
Yeah,
That's really good.
I
That's
have
also
it here. I have it here. Let me show you.
that's the one you did for Norlys, right?
Yeah, with Jacob, we did it.
Yeah. But
I
that one's
think
also
my
really good.
my lighting is not good enough for you guys to see it. But yeah, I have it on my Instagram. I also have it on my artist station, I think. But yeah, I'm sure
Mhm.
I have it on my Instagram. This was very
Yeah.
special, by the way. I think the challenge for sculpting two heads, because I did it, is that
Mhm.
if the eyes are open and you're trying to give them expression in each face, it's like you cannot, because it's small, you cannot
Yeah.
concentrate on one face. Your eyes are
No.
always like switching between faces, so it's challenging. You need to have a focus on your work in any case, even if it's a diorama. You need to have a
Mhm.
focus. And
Yeah.
when there's two head in a bust, which is a small, it's more challenging because then your eyes are like, "Oh, okay, which one should I look at?"
It also can very easy is like yeah, it's difficult to find like a specific focal point. So usually the heads will have to be kind of close, I feel like, for the
Mm-hmm.
characters.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like you kind of stack them on top of each other. I think you did that as well on yours, right? They're kind
Yeah,
of like
exactly.
hugging.
But one
Yeah.
privilege is that they're actually closing their eyes, so it's not like, because eyes are the most expressive part, I guess. Even in painting is like, eyes are very important. So their eyes were closed, and also their head is like, kind of like stick to each other. So I think
Yeah.
it was like good point in it.
Yeah, you did well on that one. But
Thank
yeah, I
you.
think like one of the things is also like you don't want it to look cluttered, so I will consider like the silhouette of the piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I will try and like align the jaw with the
Mm-hmm.
body basically, just so it doesn't look like there's a lot of things poking out and like a lot of
Mm.
negative space in between them. I
Mm-hmm.
think you can do that, but I think it just looks a little more like a one thing instead of like a wolf put on top of a girl, you know.
So you're
And
talking about, I think, oh yeah, I have your stream. Sorry. I lost the stream for a second. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm
Mhm.
talking about the silhouette here, so you can see it's
Mhm.
kind of a clear line going around here,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of things like poking out everywhere.
Mhm.
It just to kind of organize it a little bit. But the funny thing with the bust is not really that many
Mhm.
like compositional elements. It's not like I have a long spear that can make it very clear where the focus is. So in that sense, it's a little more easy, I think. But
Yeah.
it probably depends.
Yeah, it depends
Um,
on many things actually. It's
yeah,
challenging.
it's
Oh,
always like a
we
little.
have a comment. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, you can just say the comment.
We have a comment from Daniel on Instagram that says, is asking, are you modeling like sculpture or like you two are models? I don't know what he means exactly, but I think he's asking, do you consider yourself a modeler or you consider yourself a sculptor? Or no? Are you
I
modeling
would
like
say I
sculpture
would say
or
I
like
consider
you?
myself a sculptor in the sense that usually sculpt things. I don't
No, I
just like
think,
work.
sorry, excuse me, Daniel. I think I misunderstood his question. His question is,
Yeah,
are you modeling like sculpture or like you two are models? I don't know what it means, but
yeah. I'm not really sure. Well, maybe he can rephrase it, and we'll try and get
yeah,
back to it again.
Daniel, if you write it again, we'll read it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, you were saying something?
Um, I don't remember what it was.
Okay,
But
then we have
yeah,
another comment on YouTube. Leo is asking, with that approach, it sounds limiting to one specific angle. How do you break that to make other angles exciting? I think she's talking about the
the
triangle
artist.
approach. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is actually, when you start looking from other angles, it
Mhm.
will no longer be like a triangular composition.
Mhm.
So I'll just share again from side view. I don't
Okay.
have a perfect side view on this sculpt, so
Mhm.
it might be it's not gonna align perfectly, but we'll just try and see how it looks.
Are you sharing something or you're
Just a second, then I'll share it. I'm
okay?
just kind of
Sure. I don't
trying
know
to.
if Daniel is still there or no. Daniel, could you ask your question again?
So
Yep.
if you can see here,
Mm-hmm.
just change this stuff. So basically, if you look from a side view, now this is not a perfect side view, but from a
Mm-hmm.
perfect side view, basically she would be a lot of straight lines,
Mm-hmm.
more like a square composition.
Mm-hmm.
So if you imagine this as a side view, she becomes more like a box like this,
Yeah.
and it kind of becomes an art trying to kind of balance it. And this sword is actually straight when you look from the side view.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a little bit diagonal, so it doesn't really work that
Mm.
well. But I always think like rules are there to be broken. So I'm not like, oh, it always have to like be a parallel line or something like that. I'm just kind of keeping it in mind.
Mm-hmm.
If something feels like a little out of like it doesn't really work, or it's just making the whole piece busy, then I will
Mm-hmm.
think, okay, maybe I could just tilt it a little bit, and then it will kind of align with something else, and we can kind of clear up some of the mess if it makes any
Mm-hmm.
sense. I don't think it's like, oh, this is like a little off. Now I have to fix it for no reason. It's only if it's actually necessary.
Right. I think Daniel wrote the comment again, his question. Fashion model because you two are too handsome, pretty. I didn't understand the Daniel is just writing random stuff without actually asking the question. Okay, I think we can skip this question. Sorry, you were saying something? I interrupted you, I guess.
No, I mean I think that was basically just it. Like when I look
Mm-hmm.
at the side, I'll try and I might not always limit it, or it has to be like a triangular composition from the side. It could
Mm.
be a square.
Mm-hmm.
How I approach it is like I will try and look at a symbol, so it could
Mm-hmm.
be like an inverted triangle, or a triangle, or a square, or a rectangle, or a
Mm-hmm.
circle, and try and kind of fit things in that order. But it's not always it have to be like that.
Yeah.
It's just a general rule of thumb, basically. And
So do you always put your focus on the main view, or you try to always like sculpt in a way that is interesting from every angle? Because this is my own challenge actually. I always get too much focused on making it work from every angle. Sometimes I forget to make the main view interesting enough. I mean, I try my best to do it, but then I'm like, no, but if I rotate it, then it's not gonna look interesting on the other side. If I rotate it to this side, no, I don't really like this part, and it is like a challenge for me every time.
Yeah, I think that basically, well, I think always I had an inclination to feel like I was supposed to be like an illustrator or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I, if I could, I would just do something from the main angle and not worry too much about it from other angles, just because I
Okay.
really want to just tell the story, like
Mm-hmm.
without that many limitations. And sometimes I feel like sculpture can feel a little bit limiting because you have to make it work from
Mm.
all the angles. So
Mm.
I will usually try and make it work from the main angle first, and then when it
Mm.
works from the main angle, then I will start and make it work from other angles. And I will have to make some compromises from the frontal angle.
Mm.
But I think from a commercial standpoint, usually the first thing that people are gonna see is the frontal angle,
Mm.
and people are gonna develop like an opinion on the piece, basically just based on the frontal angle, right?
Right.
So
I kind of disagree with you, but
okay, that's
but
okay.
no. It's like
What are your thoughts?
I feel like I, as a sculptor, should always take care of every angle. But in this scale, for example, because it's too small, it doesn't really make sense to worry about every angle. Because as you said, at the end of the day, they're going to take pictures only of from fronts to sides. That's it.
Mhm.
And some people
Yeah,
don't even paint the back of the sculpt. So you don't
yeah.
really like have to worry that much about it. But I'm like, I feel like if you call yourself a 3D artist, then you have to do it. I don't know, maybe because I'm just like too
No, I
much
think
like
you're right.
no, it's
I th- I
I
think
think you're partly right and I'm partly right, but at the end of the
yeah.
day what you're doing is like more logical than what I'm doing. Maybe if I'm sculpting for like a life-size statues, maybe yeah, that would work, but for a small
Yeah.
statue or small miniature doesn't really have to be like that because it makes
No, I
more
guess I mean
sense.
I think it's different from every like kind of project. It's very different. Also, like if it's
Mm,
like for wargaming, like really small models or like big
mm,
ones and stuff like that. But I feel like that's why I've been doing more busts also because a lot of the busts I do are kind of fixed view,
mm-hmm,
and I don't really have to sculpt the back in most cases. I mean, it's kind of limited, so it's
mm-hmm,
more a clear like just one visual.
mm.
But just to kind of show something, can you see my screen with this jumping girl?
I see now.
I mean, this is kind of an old piece, so a lot of it
Mm-hmm,
is kind of outdated, and I wouldn't sculpt it in this way anymore. But it's kind of still the same approach. It's just to show that a lot of people are very fixed on like stuff being triangular.
mm-hmm,
If you see a lot of artworks, it's basically always they go to the triangular. But in this one, I kind of it's a very horrible circle here. Let's see, I kind of went more from a circular kind of composition
mm-hmm.
and trying to just put the focal point like in the middle, more or less, and then
Yeah.
use like the spear as like a way to draw attention to the face.
Mm-hmm,
And you also have like the pillar kind of going toward the face.
mm-hmm,
And the parallel lines, I mean, parallel lines don't always have to be like straight.
mm-hmm.
They can also be circular. So I've also added like circular lines here,
Right.
and it's just to kind of show that it doesn't always have to be like completely like rigid.
Mm-hmm,
Like just there's actually a lot of wiggle room with this kind of approach that I have, I think.
right.
But then again, it's like this, I think this leg would look a little too stiff. It was just going out like that to
Mm-hmm,
be straight with this. So sometimes you also have to take an account like realism, right? It's not always just gonna be like straight lines.
right.
It's just using like your common sense as well with this approach, I guess.
Right. So you don't always go for the triangle one. You always try to, make it make sense, have a sense of, either
Mm.
circle or triangle, or you have another approaches as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm. All
basically,
right.
yeah.
We have another comment from Leo that wrote, so deciding on one perfect side is more important to you than working for no reason on the other view directions? No, actually, I asked him this question. I think we covered this one. Or do you have more to add? Or
I mean, it's just that I think, I mean, obviously all angles should look good. It's not like it's only gonna work from one angle and then people see the model in hand, it looks like completely like a mess, you know? I
mm-hmm,
just think that is I will put more effort into the main angle, and I will make more compromises to the other angles than the
mm-hmm,
frontal one. Let's
mm-hmm,
say like that. So if I choose like should the left angle or the front look
mm-hmm,
best, I will want the front to look best. Obviously, I think,
mm.
and that's basically just my approach. I would say it's not like
Okay.
I want all of them to look good, but the main one, I think that's the
Has
frontal
to
angle
be,
is the one that I
yeah,
want to look the best. Yeah.
that makes sense. So Frank DC92 is he wrote, the last sculpture reminds me of Bayonetta, the character from the video game series, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a cool game.
Yeah, I never played it. I mean, I never played any games actually.
I'm not. I mean, I do play video games, but not that much anymore. Yeah,
Ah, okay.
but it's a good source of inspiration. Like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the inspiration I get is just from playing. I'll
Mm-hmm.
play like a Dark Souls game or something like that,
That's
and then I will
cool.
always feel like sculpting after like a session because I
Mm-hmm.
saw so much awesome artwork. You know.
Mm-hmm. I see that you have some printed or traditionally sculpted stuff over there. Do you have
In the
something to
back.
show us? Or,
I guess we could like see.
yeah. I mean, we would like to see if it's not a problem for you. Thorbjorn getting from greeting from Poland. You have greeting from Poland from Peter Miniatures. And Leo wrote, the other monster is pleased. How is your workflow with concept art for customers? Do you hear us?
So basically, I have you can see the
Mm-hmm.
print of this one, the
Oh,
Artemis sculpt.
that's great. Did you print it yourself?
Uh, I had a friend print it out for me.
Okay,
So
that
this
looks
is this.
cool. That looks really cool.
Then I just found it funny because I had the sculpted.
Oh, the first one.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so
That
that's
is
kind of cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm really happy that I bought this one. It's just like funny to see like that many years later how far you
Yeah. So this was
got the
like
stuff. Kind of look
5 years ago?
yeah, 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, this is like
That's
something
awesome.
I
Another
sculpted as well
bust.
sometime ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who
a lot of
painted it?
busts.
This one?
I painted it myself, so
Oh, great
uh,
job. I cannot paint.
yeah, I don't know. But we'll pick up on it. But
That
it's
looks
decent.
cool. It's very not common to see a sculptor who paints as well. I
Yeah,
think
so I
there
think
there are not many. Yeah.
some years ago, I did this project on some academic busts,
Mhm.
and basically, I felt like an academic bust is essentially something that's made for educational purposes.
Mhm.
As like something that's a small, limited project that you can use to learn. And I think if I sculpted it, I had to kind of try and paint it in that
Mhm.
sense because it was supposed to be something that was more intended to learn.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to try it out myself to see is this actually something that's easy and nice to paint. So that's why I tried it out.
that's great. I also tried to paint a bust. I don't think if I have that bust here anymore. It was this girl with the robes and with the very sad face. I tried it, but I was like crying painting it. and and yeah, I sent Moses a few pictures, and he was like, no, you're doing good, just continue, just continue. I was like, no, I'm not patient, I want to see it done now. I cannot wait for it. I think
Yeah.
to be a painter, you need to be really patient, and I'm not really patient. So for me, it's not really easy to do it. I think I'm
It's
good
very
with,
like slow.
yep.
It seems like a very slow process to me. Painting is very
Yeah,
tedious.
yeah, it is. It is.
It's like I can sculpt the sword quicker than I can paint it. That's kind of ironic,
Mm.
I think. I can make it
Yeah,
from scratch
me too.
faster than like
Yeah,
just painting it.
me too.
It's
Me
insane.
too. So Leo asked, how is your workflow with concept art for customers?
I think, when I used to be a freelancer,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be that either they provide a concept art,
Mm-hmm.
but if they don't provide a concept art, you will have to come up with something. And I think you should probably expect to charge a little bit more if you are basically also having the concept hat on, so to speak.
Exactly, because it takes
If
more
you have to
time.
do that, yeah, it's gonna take more time. There's gonna be a
Mm.
lot of guesswork where you do something, and then
Yeah,
they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's not what I want," and then you have to do it over. And
yeah,
that's you should kind of try and calculate that in
yeah.
the
Because then you
price.
don't get paid based on the hours that you're putting to sculpt
Yeah.
it. You
And
just get paid for the final work, and I think it's not really good to be like, it's not really fair actually, because it's
Mhm.
not
No, it's
only
not.
your work, it's not only your time, it's also your experience, it's also a part of your soul, because it's artwork at the end of the day. It's not like, it's not like mathematics.
No, that's true. And
Yeah.
let me see. Basically, I mean, she also, I don't know, also asked about the workflow. I guess like it will. I don't think you should invest too much time into sculpting something to a final state. If it's like a
Mm,
concept, then you just kind of try and convey the idea.
mm,
So I will do like a kind of very sloppy outline of the composition, maybe just like doing very basic
mm-hmm,
geometry, and then I might do like I might draw on top of that very basic geometry,
mm-hmm,
like some like bags or pockets or whatever she may have or he have
mm-hmm.
like the sculpt, just kind of trying to convey the idea just so you know kind of what direction you're going.
Okay. And might be monsters again. What's your favorite Souls like, and why is Bloodborne?
It's basically like a video game.
Okay.
And I think my favorite Souls like is probably Elden Ring, I think, or Dark Souls 1.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like a video game series of various video games made by a company called From Software.
Okay.
And because all the games have like something called souls in them, people call them
Mm.
Souls like. And I think my favorite is the first one, the Souls. So
Elden Ring, you said, right?
yeah, Elden Ring and Dark Souls 1. Those two
Yeah.
are like I don't think I could choose between them.
Yeah, I actually sculpted that character.
From Elden Ring?
Yeah, the redhead girl with the wings, and
Oh, okay, that's cool.
yeah, it was a statue, it wasn't like miniature, so yeah.
There's a lot of people that take inspiration from those video games because they are very like inspirational, I guess.
Yeah, at the end, like it was like sculpted with me and another sculptor. So
Hmm?
it was a little bit, changed at the end. It's why you don't see it in my portfolio, but it was really a cool experience. Have you ever sculpt for like a statue size, by the way? Or are you
No,
interested?
I think it would be fun to do that one day, maybe. But I think the largest stuff I've done is probably like I did one that was maybe like this big,
Okay.
like that,
Mhm.
which is like
Mhm.
30 or 40 centimeters tall.
Mhm.
So that was pretty big, I think. But
Mm.
that's like for a commercial thing. I haven't done like
Okay.
usually the
But
commercial
was
stuff
it
I do is just
was it
smaller
like
scale.
one character, or was like multiple
It was just
characters?
one
Like,
guy.
okay,
It's still
okay.
kind of like a. I guess that's like I want to say like the people that sculpt like superhero statues are pretty big. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that, maybe bigger. Yeah.
But was it a superhero, or another character?
I actually can't say what it is. It's a
Ah,
little strange.
okay. All right.
it's a
Yeah,
little.
sure.
It is
Yeah.
out. It is out, but mine there's like for different reasons I can't say that I worked on it. So it's a little
Okay.
weird.
I understand perfectly.
Yeah.
So, are you also interested in sculpting superheroes? I know that you're sculpting a Batman.
Yeah. I
I do
think I don't.
too.
Yeah. Which is your favorite superhero?
Batman.
Okay, Batman. Yeah, I think I like Batman as well. But
Yeah.
I think I don't really have that much interest in superheroes in
Mm-hmm.
general. I just like some. like some storylines or something like that that I could see that would
Mm.
be interesting to sculpt. I think you kind of uh, you expressed the other day that you kind of feel
Mm-hmm.
similarly. How do you feel?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like I'm not really a big fan of superheroes, but when I see Maria Pamphilova doing Batman and Catwoman, I'm like, I have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
It,
get most of my inspiration from her work. I know that my
yeah.
work is not even comparable to hers, but it's like I look at her stuff and I'm like, God, I have to do. I have to do something because it's
Yeah.
really inspiring. And
It makes
also,
sense.
yeah, and I also with sculpting superheroes, I also looked at Daniel Bell's portfolio a lot, especially for his Catwoman. I don't know if you have seen
Yeah.
it or not.
I haven't seen that one, I think, but
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
some
it's
really awesome
amazing.
ones.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, is that the one where like Catwoman is looking up at Batman?
No, it's actually one Catwoman. There's no
Oh,
Batman in
okay.
it. It's Catwoman with a bunch of heads and monsters under her feet, and she has this broken, I think, cape. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
As I remember, it looks like this, and she's really like looking so cool, and the composition, the contrapposto, everything looks just so amazing, and the facial expression is absolutely amazing. So we have another comment. Simone just uh, wrote, this goes back to when you got started in sculpting, but what exercises or practices helped you grow your anatomical understanding the fastest?
I think that I think just keeping sculpting like different like just sculpting anatomy over and over and over in as many poses
Mm,
as possible is like the best thing you can do.
mm-hmm,
Because sometimes you'll encounter like a specific issue. So like when you raise your arm,
mm-hmm,
your shoulder will kind of dip in a little bit, and
mm-hmm,
it's a kind of really strange thing the first time you sculpt that.
mm,
But the second time you sculpt that, it just makes much more sense.
mm,
And it's the same thing with a lot of things in regards to anatomy. It's like when you make like a closed fist, like the first time is like a little strange, like where's the like thumb in
yeah,
comparison to like the other fingers. But then
mm-hmm,
after you've done it a couple times, it's just way easier.
mm-hmm,
But I think anatomy always came very easily to me. I think you're
mm-hmm.
the same, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I just always had an interest in bodies, I guess, like
Mm.
anatomy.
Yeah,
Just
me too.
looking at people, and I think it's very like fascinating sometimes to see like different like physiques. So
Exactly.
I think I always just paid attention to it, so it just came easily to me. And I think I have a very good like visual memory as well.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I can see in my head like how it's gonna look, and then I can
Mm.
just sculpt it from that memory, I guess.
Mm. So do you like usually use in anatomy case, do you usually use real models or you use internet pictures like model poses posing pictures like references, or which one do you think is better if you want to give us an advice?
I think I mean the best thing is probably like if you have a real model standing there,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that it's not like a big deal if it's just using internet references. So
Mm-hmm.
I've done both.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do work with like quite a few like different models and then take pictures of them or like
Mm-hmm.
use pictures of different models, like specific ones on like a specific photographer that would take the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
just so I knew that I have like different angles and stuff like that.
Mm.
And that makes it a lot easier. Obviously, when you have like 360 degrees of someone sitting in that pose and you can take close up of their feet,
Yeah.
and their hands and everything is kind of like a little bit like hacking the system. I feel like it's like you have everything just given to you for free,
Yeah.
so that makes it a lot easier. But I don't think it's necessary necessarily. It's just gonna make it easier for you. So if you can, it's
Yeah.
worth it.
I think in my case, it's like when I have a real model, I prefer to have just for a few minutes and like take pictures if I need to take, or look closely and carefully to see how it is. And then I prefer to, go on by myself and don't look at the model, because it's like it's not like drawing, you know. When you're drawing, you can finish it in 1 hour or in 40 minutes, but sculpting takes more time actually. So I never actually
Yeah.
had anyone standing in front of me like how they do with traditional, sculpting or like with traditional painting and stuff. I never had it like
Mhm.
that. I always have like, you know, models, like for a few minutes, do the pose so I understand what's kind of happening. I did this specifically with Dante because I had
Mhm.
this struggle with the arm reaching the belly of the Beatrice, and
Mhm.
I did it many times until I finally figured out how it works. But do you have them like in front of you for hours, or do you prefer to have them for just a few minutes or 1 hour?
No, I'll just take pictures. What I
Mm.
used to do when I was a freelancer,
Mm-hmm.
I would just, I would have like a 1 year wait list, and
Mm-hmm.
I would typically have a pretty solid idea what each project would be.
Yeah.
So I would just hire like a model for an hour. Then I'll just go take pictures of all the poses for that year,
Mm-hmm.
of like all the commissions that I have. So like, oh, I'm gonna do a woman standing like this, one standing like that, and I just take all the pictures. And then when that commission rolls around, you can just look at the pictures that you took like a year ago or whatever. That makes
Mm.
it a lot easier, and it's not that it's very inexpensive to actually hire a model in most cases for like
Mm.
an hour. It's not gonna
Right.
cost you that much compared to how much time you're gonna
Yeah.
save. So I think it's worth it if you want to, and you can even if you want, if you have like other sculpting friends, you can just
Mm.
kind of like
Yeah.
uh all chip in, I guess, with the how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah, that's what I do actually.
Yeah.
That's what I do because it's like, yeah, it's always like easier and doesn't cost that much. But like,
No.
I would love to actually pay them because it's like something that they do, but you know,
Yeah.
maybe
Like
maybe a dinner could be better, better than actually
dinner,
paying your friends.
they can go for a coffee. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
mean,
yeah, okay.
it would be really weird to pay your friends to be your model, but you can actually invite them for something, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if you have
Yeah.
like a friend that has a really nice hand or something like that, and it's like, oh, that's a really sculptorly hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever feel like this, but sometimes I look at people and notice like a specific feature about them, and I just kind of feel like, oh, that's a really interesting feature. You know, like, oh, they have a nice nose or something,
I'm always like
or
that.
like,
I look at
yeah. And I
everyone
just
as they are my subject. And it's sometimes
sometimes I
weird.
just yeah. Sometimes I
Yeah.
want to stop them and just takes pictures of like that, like their ears. I'm like, but you
Yeah.
can't really, you know.
Yeah, you can't, like, unless they're your friends and they understand that, we're kind of weirdos trying to understand people and anatomy. Unless you
Yeah.
cannot just stop someone saying, hey, can I take a picture of your, I don't know, like nose or eyes or ears? But yeah. Frank asks, do you like Alex Ross Batman and other superheroes drawn by him? I like Jim
I'm not
Lee's Batman.
familiar with that one, but I'll look it up.
Yeah, I'm not familiar either, but I like Jim Lee's one.
Okay, so I guess it's
Leo,
like in terms of the design of how he draws them.
I'm not sure. That's how I understood. Like Alex Ross, Batman could be illustrator. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like Alex Ross. It seems to be like a very specific design of Batman. I think it looks very nice. Like
Yeah.
the thing is, I'm not a big superhero fan, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does look nice. I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I sculpted mine, like the one I'm working on right
Mm.
now. Yeah.
Simone also says, I stare at people's feature all the time, especially if they're interesting. So we are not the only
Yeah.
weirdos here. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's like not very understandable to other people. Sometimes when I'm
No,
like, yeah,
I think people can get a little freaked out if you look too
yeah,
much. If it makes any
yeah,
sense.
that's exactly what I wanted to say. Sometimes, like in the station or outside, when I'm sitting waiting for something, I see, especially sometimes old people, they have really like unusual shapes on their like legs or feet or hand that like sometimes you see it with your like artistic eyes or with your like sculptor eyes, and you're like, if I sculpt it like this, everyone would think that I don't know anatomy. But if you go out and see, actually, this kind of body exists, this anatomy is real, like you need to have a proof to show them that no, I don't make mistake, this is how it looks. Because it's really interesting when you look carefully. It's like we have some standard that we all go for, and obviously clients go for those standards. Like we want the prettiest girl ever, and it has to have this amount of prettiness, and the eyes should be like this, the nose should be like this, the lips should be like this. And we are, like, I think, losing it sometimes, approaching to standards than actually what is happening in real life, and what is existing in real life, you know.
Yeah, I think you're completely correct. So sometimes as a sculptor, we will like work from specific kind of rules of thumbs. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's gonna be like one eye size in between the eyes and maybe one extra eye. Then you
Yeah.
have like a five wide head, basically,
Mm-hmm.
a five eyes wide head, and that is just like a rule of thumb because if you go out in the real world, people look completely different. And I
Exactly.
sometimes feel like if you sculpt someone, a real person, you have to sculpt them perfectly imperfect. Like
Exactly.
you have to really nail how they look imperfect because otherwise it's just gonna look like wrong, like you fucked up.
Exactly. I agree with you. And this is another reason that I hate symmetry. I don't like to sculpt in symmetry, either the face or the body. It has to be
Mhm.
different because it is like this in real life.
Yeah, I think you have a very like something I admire about your work. It is very sculptorly in the
Hmm.
sense you really sculpt everything. Like usually, from what I've seen from your workflow,
Yeah, I
where
do.
I- I'm way more like of a like 3D approach sometimes. I will work like from a base mesh and I will work symmetrically as long as possible. Sometimes
Hmm.
too much, to be honest. Like I
Hmm.
could probably it usually will look better if you don't do it like too symmetrically, but I
Hmm.
think sometimes I've become a little too lazy, I guess, with that stuff.
No,
But
I also sculpt in symmetry, but then I have to break it. At some point, you have to. I have to break it. It's like I start sometimes with base mesh, sometimes not with the base mesh, and I always start in symmetry. But then, like when I try to make it look real, adding details, then I have to break the symmetry. For example, rotating the jaw a little bit, making one eye bigger and the other one just slightly smaller, or the nose not kind of like uh, central, or the lips somehow in some way different. That's how I
yeah.
do it. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. So I have one
Well,
final question for you, and
okay.
if the audience on Instagram or YouTube, they don't have any more questions, then I will not bother you more than this.
Okay.
So the question is, I'm asking this to everyone. Those people who are young and they are trying to start to to become a digital sculptor, or starting with 3D world in general, and they are scared, especially with AI now. They don't know what is going to be the future for them. Do you have any suggestion, or what is your opinion on this?
Um well, I think it could be that can be like a slightly controversial topic, I guess, but I guess it's I wouldn't worry too much about that,
Mm-hmm.
like the AI element. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like in the end you should do art because it's enjoyable to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't enjoy sculpting, then I don't really I mean, then you don't do it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And if you enjoy sculpting, then it's not like it doesn't make any sense just because an AI can do it better or faster, I think.
Mm.
And as long as you do it because you love it, then you're gonna get really good, and you're probably gonna get better than the AI can, at least for the moment. I don't know how it will be in the future though.
Yeah.
It might change a lot,
Mm.
but I wouldn't worry too much. Do it for your own enjoyment.
Mm. But some people are like worried because they also need to have an income immediately. So they want to invest on something that they can actually have an income. Did
Yeah,
you
that makes sense.
did you start to have an income immediately, or it took you a while to actually get your first client?
I think it took like I mean, it was kind of the first sculpt that I did like digitally that was
Mm-hmm.
sold. So and then I kind of got. I think the first year I did like 3 or 4 commissions. It's not that much, I think,
Mm-hmm.
but that was like I was starting out. I had a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year was more like 10 or something like that. And then the next year was like maybe like 40.
Mm.
And then it would kind of consistently be like one sculpt a week to every 2 weeks
Mm.
when I was like in working full time and gotten more used to the workflow.
Mm. Okay. Um, Another question I just want to ask, it just came to my mind, but there's a question by Leo on YouTube. Have you encountered problems with customers asked to make figures more sellable, like giving male character bigger arm or female bigger chest? This is a good question.
Uh, I have, I guess I have tried that when I was a freelancer. I've never like heard of
Mm,
that when I was where I work now, but like I think that I mean I've actually never heard of people wanting like bigger chest
mm-hmm,
for female or something like that. I've mostly heard the other way that they want to kind of, and it's not like I make like big breasts. I actually usually make small ones, but I think sometimes companies they don't want to be the companies that I work with, which is
mm,
usually like companies that are not like do like sexualized models.
mm,
They will usually try and tone it back a little. But I
mm,
know that some models, like some model companies, they will try and accentuate that. But it's not something I've encountered. So in that sense,
mm. I've
have
had
you have
both.
you encountered that?
Yeah,
You had
I
both.
had both. Like, had both that I've been asked to make them bigger, or I've been asked to cover them fully. Well, yeah, it depends on the approach. As you said,
Yeah,
some companies or some, clients, they don't want to approach, the sexual part of, female body, so they prefer to have it covered, which is
yeah,
understandable. And then we have another question. Tentacleman.
yeah.
So does that mean 3D sculpting will only be a hobby? I think
I
he's
don't think
asking
it will.
about the future. Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever only become a hobby
Mm-hmm.
because I think the human element is necessary for a lot of it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's one aspect that people don't really take into account. So if you want to make something like have the copyright or like the right to sell something specifically, if
Mm-hmm.
you want to patent something, like if you want to make it copyrightable, I guess then you have to come up with the idea yourself. And AI generated stuff is not copyrightable, so you can't
Mm-hmm.
protect your work basically. So
Mm-hmm.
if you make a character through an AI generated service, then other people can just go ahead and copy that character, and you can't really sue them or do anything legally. And
Right.
I think for bigger companies, it's not really worth the risk unless they have an AI that
Mm.
can do it very specifically. And I don't think that's possible for 3D right now, but I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know actually. It's a
No,
bit
we don't know. I
scary.
guess,
Yeah, but I guess we just have to continue what we're doing and don't overthink it that much because it's not something that we
yeah,
can do much about it. So, as you said, I agree on just starting specifically for those who want to start and they're doubting. I would just say that just start without thinking because like if you can
yeah,
sculpt 1 hour per day, just do it and you'll
yeah,
see if you really love to sacrifice other things for sculpting or you prefer to quit because you have other priorities in your life.
yeah. No, I think that makes sense.
Manco Miniatures wrote on Instagram, the academics made by Thorbjorn are still some of my favorite posts ever. People love you.
I'm happy to hear that.
And we have Hurt One, Horton. I don't know how to read his name.
Heard one.
Hurt One.
It's Patrick. Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote, "Who is the handsome hunk? Great to see you, Thor. Looking great. Good job on the workout." Well, as I said, people love you. Love you and your
Uh,
artwork.
well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah. So the question that I have on my mind was have you sculpted orcs? Because I
I have
don't.
sculpted dogs.
Yeah, you did. Do you like sculpting them?
Not really. They're
Mm,
okay.
okay.
How about you?
So,
Did you sculpt them?
no, because it's why I haven't seen it on your portfolio, because I don't look for it when I look on, portfolios and stuff. I just when I see them I skip them because it's just not, it's my personal taste. It's not like I have anything against them. It's like my personal thing. I just don't enjoy looking at them. I prefer
Same for me. It's just a
anatomy.
personal thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, it's like it's okay to sculpt, but you wouldn't choose to sculpt it when you're free on your free time, right?
No, not. I mean, I've done some one in my free time, but it's not like really.
Mm,
It's not that interesting to me. It's okay.
okay.
It's just not my thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any final words, anything, any suggestion? Because I'm done with the
Uh,
questions and I don't see any comments.
well, it was nice talking to you, and thanks for having me on. And
It was really
well, it was
nice
nice.
to talk to you as well. Thank you for accepting to be
Yeah,
here.
yeah, no problem. Thank you as well.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk soon then. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. And I'm going to be live again next Monday, probably with another artist, or I'm going to sculpt something. So next week on Monday evening, I'll see you guys again. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.